Hey, I'm Coach T. This is week 13 of my year-long C-sharp video diary. This week was very, very busy for me professionally because I am involved in delivering a fairly long, intensive, uh, structured literacy workshop. And this week it was 2 days out of the 5 working days, which meant a lot of time preparing, reading slides, preparing materials, going over our scripting and our activities, making sure everything was laid out. So I was brain wiped this week, and it bracketed both parts of the week. So by the time that I was recovered from all of that cognitively, it was time to move on to the next day. So not the best structure this week, but it's done for a while. So I'm going to keep this video diary, dev diary thing very short in comparison to the other weeks, because the honest truth is I just didn't get a lot done. What I did work on was a little bit of Unity. So you're looking here at basically a basic player unit that I got moving around. I spent some time learning how to port models from Blender into Unity. That kind of occupied my hour of study, excuse me, in the evenings. What I did get to work on that was more productive in terms of learning more about the language is the final assessment project for Christina's course on Udemy, the 2024 Masterclass. And I have some issues with the way that she structured it instructionally, but I was able to get about 90% of it done myself. So the gist of the project is you need to build a cookie recipe storing app that writes input recipes to either a .txt or a .json based on the user's preferences, which meant I had to use interfaces to switch between the JSON and text saving methods, and I had to have classes that did that. And then I also needed to have a means of viewing recipes and a means of creating new recipes, and then storing them into an IEnumerable collection, I guess. I had erred on the side of list, but I didn't know what an IEnumerable was at the time. I see now that the IEnumerable is an interface that could accept a list, and I think that's pretty cool. But I got all the way there on my own. I just couldn't figure out how to read from a file. And to be honest, I've never done it before outside of reading back an entire class string instance. And she set a kind of interesting challenge. You could only save the recipes by the ID of the ingredients going in. So that meant that in order to serialize to the JSON or serialize to a text file, I could only store just that ID, and reading back by the ID, I just hit a cognitive wall where I couldn't make it work on my own. So I'm still working through her videos. The issue that I have with this project as I wrap up her 5th module is that she sets it up as you have all the tools that you need to do this now. That's how it's led in and introduced. And in reality, every single one of her videos going through that assessment project, she's then introducing something she's never talked about before. And that's, I think, bad instruction, because an assessment should be different than new content. Realistically, some of those elements could have been challenges to build on to encourage us to go out and research on our own, which is what I ended up doing. It's how I ended up figuring out how to write to JSON and text on my own by the serial number. But she should not have sold that project as something that you have all the skills to do. You have the research skills by now. You understand the logic behind it, but there are things in there, like especially reading back from a file, that she has not adequately covered. Spending 4 total minutes on it in previous videos, and nothing about rebuilding a class from a deserialized string that really serve as a property of that class. Now, I can talk about it logically, but I can't do it on my own. I took a couple cracks at it. I got it to instance the class itself, but I was really struggling to get it to then stitch back the actual ingredients from the IDs. So I'm working my way through her videos. It's a little bit discouraging to hit that at the end of 5 when I felt like I was like, all right, I'm getting object-oriented programming. I'm seeing how to put together software. I'm getting control flow really, really well down. I'm increasingly independent on my own. I can write methods and classes, instructions and records and whatever, and then just get slapped with, here's a thing you should be able to do, but every single juncture I now have to scaffold it with things I hadn't taught you about. Teachers make bad students. I'm a teacher, so I make a bad student, I guess. And, I'm working my way through it. I kind of accepted, like, okay, so you couldn't do this project on your own, but we're going to watch the videos and we're going to take notes and we're going to learn about all the different things that she was trying to get us to understand to build a project. I was pretty close in my construction. I had interfaces for both the viewer and for the recipe builder. I had an interface for the different types of ingredients because I had figured out there were spices versus your regular like admixture ingredients. And my recipe class was identical. So like looking at it componentially, I'd say I was 75% overlap, maybe 65%. She did some things that I just hadn't even thought about with the objects. It was just lack of experience, But then when you look at the structure of our applications, very similar structure. But hers is obviously it's better written, it's simpler, it's more modular, which I was working really hard on. I definitely am taking strides towards improved modularity, but not all the way there, right? Which shouldn't be a surprise on week 13. So I'm working through that. I'm continuing to work on Unity. I'm starting to understand how input works, starting to understand how to import things. Still don't know how deep I want to go with it, but I'm having fun. So it's something I look forward to sitting down and doing. Whereas there have been many days where I sit down and I'm like, I don't know if I want to read another chapter of Whitaker or if I want to watch more videos on just C# and just amassing that pile of knowledge out of context. Because I have to keep inventing my context, and I keep working on these school apps, which I'm progressing through slowly. But one of the things that's frustrating is every time I learn something new, I'm like, oh, I can do it better. And I end up rebuilding the damn thing. And that's not great. That's not a great use of my time. It's not a great use of the skills, probably. Well, no, on reflection, it's probably a good use of the skills to keep rebuilding more efficiently. So I will rescind that complaint, but I am finding that just playing around with Unity and very quickly being able to get something on screen to interact with my C# code and then taking all the stuff that I know about the language and expanding way beyond what the tutorial is going through is satisfying. It's gratifying. It's even vindicating. So that's been my week. I'm going to keep this one trim. We're less than 10 minutes. That's plenty. Next week, the log will probably be late because we are traveling over the weekend. So it'll be the week 14 log. I honestly don't know how deep I'm going to get in. I need to finish her module 5. I probably might go back to Whitaker because he was going to introduce generics where I left off. And she's mentioned them, so I'm thinking that might be a good supplement to all of the work that I've done in module 5. Learn more about generics, figure out what the heck they are, and then beyond that, I'm definitely going to do her module 6 in the near future because it's on error handling and exceptions, which I don't really have an issue with, but there are times where I know I have to engineer a workaround to prevent an application from crashing because I can see where user input might muddle the actual computation, the execution, and so I have to work around that carefully. And I know from Python that just being fluent and comfortable with the try except handling makes life easier. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm moving forward a little bit every day. The goal is 1% every day, 80% practice, 20% learning, and I'm trying to continuously have fun with it and stretch those skills in new ways. So week 13 is out. We're heading into fall and looking forward to new stuff. So yeah, I'll be back in probably like 10 days actually.